You ever just find yourself watching some kids and you're like, wow, they just get it, you know? They can just focus and they get things done, and if something doesn't work out, they just bounce right back.
Yeah.
And it really makes you think about what gives them those abilities, those skills that just make life seem a little easier.
Absolutely. I think everyone's noticed that. It's like
Oh.
an invisible advantage some kids seem to have.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're going to unpack today. We're going deep on something called executive functions.
Ooh, executive
Those
functions.
EFs.
EFs, yeah.
In early childhood.
Okay.
So we're talking about 0 at 8 years old, and we're really going to try to understand, these are the foundational skills that contribute to things like how well kids behave in school and even how well they learn academics like reading and math.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it like that, it's like the bedrock. It's so fundamental.
It really is. And I think for our listeners, you're all busy people, you've got kids, maybe you're working. We want to give you the shortcut.
A cheat sheet.
Yeah, we're going to synthesize a really important study here. Right. So we're looking at a meta-analysis.
Okay.
This is like a study of studies. It's called Parental Behaviors Predicting Early Childhood Executive Functions
Oh, wow.
by Velkin, Davis, and Pino-Pasternak
All right.
from 2018.
Got it.
So they looked at 42 studies
Wow.
published between 2000 and 2016.
Okay, so a decent time span there.
So they were really trying to figure out what is the connection between how parents behave and how these executive functions develop in their kids.
Right, and so the meta-analysis is looking across all those studies and trying to find the common threads.
Exactly. Like, is there a strong link? Are there certain behaviors that are more influential than others?
Uh-huh.
And is there a window of time where this connection is especially powerful?
I like it. Okay, I'm ready.
So before we get too far, I think we need to define what we're talking about. What are these executive functions?
Yeah, so executive functions, think of it as like the air traffic control system of your brain. It's those higher order cognitive processes that allow us to control our thoughts and actions to achieve goals, like planning, organizing, staying focused, and controlling impulses.
Yeah,
And they're primarily supported by the prefrontal cortex,
that's the front part of your brain for our listener.
the front part, right?
So it really is the control center.
The CEO.
All right, so within this control center, there are 3 core EFs that this study is interested in.
Okay.
Inhibition, shifting, and working memory.
All right, so let's break those down.
Okay, so inhibition, what is that?
So inhibition is your ability to like stop yourself from doing something you really want to do but shouldn't.
Okay.
So, for example, it's like resisting that urge to blurt out an answer before being called on.
Yeah.
Or like a classic game Simon Says. You have to inhibit that urge to just copy every action and only do it when Simon says.
And there's that classic test, the day-night task, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, where like they show you a picture of the moon and you have to say day and a picture of the sun and you have to say night. It requires you to like really inhibit that automatic response to just name what you see.
Yeah, and so this is showing up every day in the classroom when a kid's trying to sit still or not, grab a toy from their sibling.
Exactly.
So many examples of inhibition or shifting. What's that?
So shifting is that mental agility, that ability to like switch between different tasks or mental sets or thoughts. So it's kind of like if you think of a kid playing with Legos and they're like really focused on building the tallest tower ever. And then you're like, okay, now build a house.
Uh-huh.
You have to shift your mindset, your focus to do that different task.
Or like, they're drawing and then suddenly it's time to go to dinner.
Right.
So
Exactly.
to make that transition. Okay, working memory.
Working memory. So this is the ability to hold information in mind and manipulate it. It's like your brain's RAM. So it's not just remembering a phone number. It's like remembering a set of instructions and carrying them out in order.
So it's actively working with the information you're holding.
Yeah, like doing a puzzle.
Mm.
You need to remember the shapes, the colors, and where they sit. Or like repeating digits backwards. I say 381, and you have to say 183.
Yeah, I can see how all of these are really important in school and in life in general.
Right, absolutely.
Now, there's a little debate about whether these 3 things are actually one skill or 3 separate skills.
Yeah, I mean, some researchers view EFs as this unitary construct, especially in early childhood, kind of like a general cognitive ability that underlies all 3. But then others see it as more multidimensional.
Okay, so this study looked at it from both angles.
Right.
Okay, so now let's talk about what they were looking at in terms of parental behaviors.
Okay.
They broke it down into 3 categories: positive, negative, and cognitive.
All right. So for positive parenting behaviors, we're talking about things like warmth, responsiveness, sensitivity, and support. Basically creating a nurturing and loving environment.
So things like giving hugs, saying nice things, being there for your kid when they need you.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Just being emotionally available and supportive and really understanding and responding to their needs.
Okay, so what about the negative side?
So negative parenting behaviors are things that can hinder development. Things like being overly controlling, intrusive, or detached, using harsh punishments. It's that kind of behavior that can create a stressful or unpredictable environment.
So like yelling a lot, being critical, being kind of hands off, not really engaged.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's cognitive parenting behaviors, which are super interesting.
Okay.
This is all about how parents engage their children's minds and encourage their thinking skills. So it's things like autonomy support, scaffolding, cognitive
So
stimulation.
what does all that actually look like? What are some examples?
So autonomy support is about giving children choices and encouraging them to make decisions,
Okay.
like letting them choose what they want to wear or what game they want to play.
Yeah, giving them some control.
Right, exactly. And then scaffolding is like providing just the right amount of support to help them learn a new skill.
Okay, so you're not doing it for them.
No, you're helping them learn to do it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they're learning to tie their shoes, you might hold the laces for them at first and then gradually let them do more and more on their own.
Okay.
And then cognitive stimulation is just like exposing them to new experiences and ideas,
Hmm.
asking them questions, reading to them, playing games that challenge them to think.
So I can see where these all fit in with developing executive functions. Like,
Yeah.
you're giving them the tools to think and plan and make choices.
Exactly. And it all comes from this theoretical understanding that how parents interact with their children emotionally and intellectually shapes their cognitive development. It's not just about genes.
Hmm.
It's about the environment you create.
Really fascinating stuff. So let's get to the meat of this. What were the major findings of this meta-analysis? Like, how do these parental behaviors actually connect with executive functions?
Well, they found that all three types of parental behavior, positive, negative, and cognitive, had a statistically significant association with EFs in young children. But it's important to note that these were what they called modest correlations, meaning they account for some, but not all, of the variation in EFs.
Right. So there are a lot of factors at play, but parenting definitely has a role.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so let's dig into each finding, starting with positive parental behaviors.
Sure. So they found a positive correlation of R equals 0.25 between positive parenting and global executive function.
Okay, what does that mean for the average parent listening at home?
Well, basically, it means that children whose parents are more warm, responsive, and supportive tend to have slightly better executive function skills overall.
And I assume they looked at the different types of executive functions separately?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
So they found positive correlations with inhibition, or 0.15, working memory, R 0.21, and shifting, R0. But the association with shifting was a little weaker than the others.
Okay, so why might positive parenting have this effect on EFs?
Well, one idea is that positive emotions like feeling safe and loved create a better environment for learning and exploration.
Yeah, it's kind of like that fight or flight response. If you're stressed, you can't really learn.
Right, exactly. And positive parenting can also foster a child's motivation and optimism, which can help them persist through challenges.
Yeah, if you think you can do it, you're more likely to keep trying.
Exactly. And finally, it can help them develop resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks, which is crucial for developing those executive function skills.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not just about being nice, it's about creating an environment where kids can thrive.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about negative parental behaviors?
Well, the meta-analysis found a negative correlation of R, a For's net of 0.22, between negative parenting and global EF.
Okay, so less positive parenting, worse executive function.
Right. And specifically, they found a negative correlation with inhibition, R equalized 0.18. But the data on shifting and working memory wasn't strong enough to draw conclusions.
All right, so more negative parenting, more trouble controlling impulses. What are some of the reasons why this might be?
Well, one possibility is that when children are constantly exposed to negativity and criticism, it can undermine their self-confidence and make them less likely to take initiative or try new things.
Yeah, it's hard to be motivated when you feel like you're always doing something wrong.
Exactly. And another idea is that very controlling parenting might actually hinder the development of self-regulation.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, if a parent is always making decisions for a child, the child doesn't get the chance to practice making choices and controlling their own behavior.
That's a really good point. So it's almost like they're being robbed of those learning opportunities.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's talk about cognitive parental behaviors.
Sure. So the meta-analysis found a positive correlation of R equal 0.20 between cognitive parenting and global EF.
So just to remind our listeners, cognitive parenting, things like scaffolding, giving kids choices,
Yeah.
stimulating their minds.
Right. And they found significant positive correlations with all three EF components. Inhibition, R equals 0.19,
Hmm.
shifting, R 0.20, and working memory, R 0.20.
Interesting. So cognitive parenting seems to have a pretty consistent effect across all the EF skills.
Exactly.
Why might that be?
Well, one key idea comes from Vygotsky's theory of the zone of proximal development. This suggests that children learn best when they're given tasks that are just slightly beyond their current abilities, but with the right support, they can achieve them. And that's where scaffolding comes in. By providing that support, parents can help their children stretch their cognitive skills and develop new strategies.
So it's like you're kind of guiding them along, helping them reach their potential, but you're not doing it for them.
Exactly. And another important aspect of cognitive parenting is autonomy support.
Giving them choices, letting them be independent.
Right, and this can foster intrinsic motivation.
So they're not just doing it because they have to, they're doing it because they want to.
Exactly. And when children are intrinsically motivated, they're more likely to engage in activities that challenge them and help them grow.
That makes a lot of sense. So we're seeing a lot of connections here. But I know some listeners might be thinking these correlations are modest. How much should we really read into these findings?
Well, it's true that the correlations aren't huge, but they're still statistically significant.
Meaning it's unlikely to be just random chance.
Exactly. And even modest correlations can have important implications for parents.
Especially when we're talking about something as crucial as executive function development.
Exactly. And it's also worth noting that there was some variability in the strength of these associations across studies, which is normal in meta-analyses.
So it's not like a one-size-fits-all situation.
Right, exactly. Different studies will have different results depending on the specific methods used, the population studied, and all sorts of other factors.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the other things that might influence these connections. The study did something called moderator analyses, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
They looked at whether certain factors might moderate the relationship between parental behaviors and EFs.
So things that might make the connection stronger or weaker.
Exactly.
And what did they find?
Well, one thing they looked at was ethnicity and SES,
Okay.
and they didn't find any significant effects for either of those.
So it doesn't seem like the connection between parenting and EFs is different for different ethnic groups or socioeconomic backgrounds.
Right. But it's important to note that they didn't have a ton of data on these factors.
So more research is needed there.
Definitely. But one really interesting finding was that child age did moderate the relationship.
Oh, okay. So how does age play into this?
Well, they found that the association between cognitive parental behaviors and global EF was stronger for younger children.
So the younger the child, the bigger the impact of those cognitive parenting strategies. So
Exactly.
it's like there's this window of opportunity in those early years where cognitive stimulation and scaffolding can really make a difference.
Yeah, and this could be because the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for EFs, is still developing rapidly in early childhood.
So it's like the brain is more malleable, more receptive to those influences.
Exactly. And this doesn't mean that parenting doesn't matter later on. It's just that those early years might be particularly important for laying the foundation.
Okay, and another interesting point is that most of the studies in this meta-analysis used objective measures of EFs.
Right, so they weren't just relying on parents' reports of their children's behavior. They used tasks that actually measured the children's cognitive abilities.
That's great because it helps to rule out some potential biases.
Exactly.
Okay, so now the big question, nature versus nurture. How much of executive function development is determined by genes and how much by environment?
Right, that's the age-old question.
So how does this research contribute to that debate?
Well, they acknowledge that genetics do play a role. I mean, there's plenty of evidence from twin studies that show a significant heritability of EFs.
So genes definitely have an influence.
Absolutely. But the fact that they found these significant associations between parenting and EFs, even though they were modest, suggests that environment, especially parenting behaviors, can still have a meaningful impact.
So it's not just predetermined by our genes. Our experiences, especially in those early years, can shape how those genes are expressed.
Exactly. And they also highlighted the fact that intervention studies have shown that parenting programs and early childhood education can improve children's EFs.
So even if there's a genetic predisposition, we can still intervene and make a positive difference.
Absolutely. It's about creating supportive and stimulating environments for children.
And one last thought-provoking point that the authors brought up was the idea of gene-environment correlations.
Oh, yes, that's a fascinating concept.
So basically, the idea is that our genes can actually influence the types of environments we're exposed to.
Exactly. So, for example, a child who's genetically predisposed to be more outgoing and sociable
Mm.
might seek out more social interactions, which in turn could further develop their social skills.
Or a child who's naturally curious might explore more and learn more from their environment.
Exactly. So it's this really complex interplay between our genes and our environment.
Right. It's not just one or the other. It's both working together.
And the authors also touched on the interesting finding that in adolescence, the shared family environment doesn't seem to have a huge impact on EFs, but the non-shared environment does.
Okay, so what does that mean?
Well, basically, it suggests that maybe it's not so much about the overall family environment, but more about the unique experiences that each child has within that family.
So how parents interact with each child individually, how they respond to their specific needs and temperament.
Exactly. So those individual differences in parenting styles might be more important than the overall family dynamics.
That's really fascinating, and I think it underscores how complex this whole area of child development is.
Definitely.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think the main message is that parenting does matter.
It's not everything, but it's definitely a significant factor in shaping children's executive function development.
Exactly. And all three types of parenting, positive, negative, and cognitive, have an impact.
So being warm and supportive, setting limits, and providing cognitive stimulation are all important.
Yeah, absolutely. And those cognitive parenting behaviors seem particularly crucial in the early years.
Yeah, providing those opportunities for exploration, problem solving, and learning with just the right amount of scaffolding.
Exactly. And while these findings are correlational and we need more research to tease apart cause and effect, I think they provide some valuable insights into how we can support children's development.
Absolutely. So as you're thinking about all of this, here's a final thought to leave you with. What small changes could you make in your daily interactions with the young people in your life to foster those executive function skills? Maybe it's about being more mindful of the way you communicate with them, or creating more opportunities for them to make choices and solve problems.
Yeah. Or just being more present and engaged with them,
Yeah.
asking them questions, encouraging their curiosity.
Right. It's about those small intentional moments that can have a big impact over time.
I love it.
And with that, we'll wrap up our deep dive.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you all next time for another deep dive.
Bye, everyone.